Alright, so we have more or less our water painted. It's in place. The arc of the shape of it, the way it's going to come down to the left and help to draw attention to the focal area, that's in place. But it's going to need a bunch of highlights. And as with everything else on the painting, because of its size, I haven't done it yet. This is truly a painting that I'm working up. You've heard that phrase before, working up a canvas. I painted part of the sky. Okay, thought that was adequate. I knew where things were more or less and what I wanted. So then I jumped down below and I worked in here. Painted a couple of cabins, or a couple of sheds. They're not finished. Okay? This has paint on it, this has paint on it, this has paint on it. None of them are done. These two only have a wash-in. They don't have any paint on them. Oh, yeah, this one is painted as well. But everything, as I work it up, all things change. I work in one area, and then I'll bring another area up. And then I'll bring this up, and then I'll decide, okay, that's up so far, this needs to be brought up more. So you're bouncing around all over the canvas when you do that kind of thing. And you have to. Because you can't make final decisions on one particular area until you have other information on the canvas that you can use for reference. I've said this so many times. On a small painting or on a study, it's easy enough to do because you can see the whole thing within your field of vision by sitting a couple of feet away from it. This thing, yeah, you need to do a lot of backing up. I would prefer to have a bigger studio so that I could back up more. It's okay. This works just fine. So we have that arc in here. I'm going to need to cut into it a little bit. I'm not going to lay too much dark over light. It's usually more successful and just looks better if you're going to take some of your lighter areas and lay them in, strategically over the dark. And then we're probably going to lay some even higher highlights back here and a few mid-tone highlights here and there. Again, strategically. Don't have to worry about it for now. I'm happy to have the water painted in. Now I feel more like I can go anywhere. I can go back to the sky. I don't think I will though. I'm considering jumping into these rocks next and putting in the meat and potatoes, Again, I don't have to have the final highlights on them, but I need to assemble and develop the general timbre and tone and cadence of the flow of the rock, of the look of the rock, the hues, the values. I'd like to get all those things adjusted. I know these two rocks here, they look like outliers right now. They might not be. Once I have the rest painted in around it, they might not look so crazy. If they do, I can tone them down. Not a problem. I painted these in quickly because I had paint on the palette more or less. Brush was dirty. I laid toilet paper over it and withdrew the excess paint. So there's no texture, or there's very little texture on these. But it's given me a base. It was still additional information that's going to help me judge what I'm going to do with the rest of this. I get the feeling I'm going to be doing some changes here as well. In the line drawing itself, I think I might make some changes. I'm not worried about it. One thing at a time. You'll drive yourself insane if you worry about too many things at the same time. Okay, so that's how that's coming. I think I'm going to, I don't know that I'm going to lay highlights on yet. I think I'm just going to hop into the rocks and have fun with that. Last video, I told my wife and my daughter who had popped in yesterday my evil plan for my video. And it's about the word juxtaposition. It does not make me nauseous, of course not. I put an empty 1-gallon ice cream bucket outside my studio door and next to it a glass of water so that I could cough, and then I could quickly run outside but leave the door open so you could hear it, because everybody loves to hear somebody throwing up, right? Anyway, mouthful of water and cough while you're spitting it back into the bucket. All right. When I saw the show, when I saw the clip later, and I never review my clips before I publish them. I just go ahead with it and hope for the best. But when I saw it later, yeah, it did look pretty real. Okay, that's you know, who knows? Maybe it'll come in useful at some point. Anyway, juxtaposition is a great word. I know quite a few professional artists. I'm not talking about somebody who sells 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 paintings a year to friends or family members, or you know, on smaller venues. I'm talking about actual professional artists that are represented by galleries, agents, etc. I've been in many shows with other artists, and the only time the word juxtapose, with its prefixes and suffixes and what have you, comes up is when we are talking to each other and we make fun of it. Because typically we hear that from the artsy crowd, not actual painters or artists, but the artsy crowd. So we kind of poke fun at it. But it is a good, legitimate description. It really is, you know. If your prof at college, your teacher at school, what have you, talks about it, it's a very, you know, it's a good description. For some reason it just niggles at us because it just sounds too pretentious, I suppose. I will use it in the future. I'll try to avoid nausea. Alright, I guess that's it for this for the moment. Maybe what I'll do, I know David Mercer, you talked about possibly showing what I have in my studio. What I'll do is grab, actually, let me just flip this screen around here. And I don't think I'll even move the tripod. Yeah, I have a studio, but my studio, okay. Does it have ventilation? Yes, it does. To your left and behind the camera is a window that's about this tall. I can open it from 1/2 inch up to 18 inches wide, which lets in a lot of air if I wanted to. To my left and on the floor is a gas fireplace. You know, cheap imitation of an actual wood burner. So that requires fresh air. So that, when that's on, that draws fresh air in from outside, does a great job of keeping the studio ventilated. Which, no matter what you're using for a thinner, you're always going to get a lot of fumes. Even low odor stuff, the fumes are still there just because you can't detect them so clearly. So that helps really to flush the room ventilation wise. On this painting, when I washed it in, I used low odor Varsol paint thinner. Not solvent. Do not use solvent. You can use, yeah, turpentine, mineral spirits, paint thinner. Do your homework on various brands of paint thinners, though. It still gets pretty high in here. So, you know, that was a lot of area to wash in, and then it begins to stink, and then, yeah, you want that. I have a fan as well that just kind of blows the air around. I can put it in my window and draw air in more quickly if I want, or reverse it and pull air out. I can open my door and pull air out, push it outside. Yeah, okay. So what I have I'll flip the screen around again here. What I have is obviously my easel. Let me back this out a little bit. Or am I backed out all the way already? Okay, that's a little better. My studio has an assortment of walking sticks that I've carved or I'm in the process of carving. It has fishing rods and fishing gear. It has various bits of wood that I've been carving on or work on over the years. It has air gun repair or modification tools and parts. It has it has my computer. It has gold panning and refining material. Oh yeah, and it has painting gear. Not a ton of it. There are a few shelves. The whole place is a mess. I like it that way. I don't have a romantic fancy studio. Years ago, a gallery that I was working with had a very nice romantic idea of, they had just bought the gallery and they wanted to do gallery tours with all of their artists, and I said, fill your boots. Leave me out of it. I'm a private guy. My studio isn't a fancy little A-frame in the woods. It's just the basement of my house. I've had nicer studios than this, but I like this one just fine. It works well for me. And they were kind of surprised. I said, no, like I said, I'm a private guy. This is my workspace. It's where I work. When I come here, this is the only thing I care about, if this is what I'm here to do. So I have, obviously, my easel, my palette. You know, I will take the camera off of the stand for a moment. There we go. Okay, so I have a shelf full of junk. Whoops, sorry, can't show you too much. This little trolley on wheels. Bought several of them from Canadian Tire. My wife has one or two in her studio. We have one beside the kitchen. I have this one in my studio. I like it. I only move it a foot or two away or a foot or two closer. You know, there's my rag for wiping charcoal. The rest is just assorted tubes of paint. Very disorganized. Love the disorganization. You know, measuring tape. We go down below and we have some linseed oil, a box of charcoal sticks, and a selection of knives. We have channel locks, pliers, just in case I haven't touched a tube for a while and I need to, it's a bit tight for my fingers. I'll use those to open it. Let's move over to the most interesting part. It's my garbage bag, full of toilet paper. That's just a staple in here. That's my rag. It's my favorite thing to use to wipe brushes, clean brushes, absorb paint off the canvas. You know, a little box there with a bunch of paints in it. Palette that I will use if I plein air or when I plein air, and a little $1 ashtray from what? A dollar store locally. Big garbage bags for shipping. It's not organized, you know, it's just a mess. At the moment I have quite a bunch of brushes, more than usual, sitting on my palette. I also have that one knife just for scraping, you know, for cleaning different piles when they get a little too messy. Tubes of paint. On a smaller painting I won't do this, but on this large painting I often need to refresh my pile. So the colors that I'm using at the moment, I just throw on there because they're handy. Easy access. There is our paint thinner. There is our linseed oil. And I used linseed oil in the sky of this painting. But, and I probably will mix a little linseed oil into my paints when I work in the water as well. but we're not concerned with that right now. Oh yeah, and sometimes also I have a little donut light, and how do I do this again? Oh yeah, okay. I'll use that. Once the sun goes down, the light gets a bit dim in here, so I can use that to highlight very specifically, areas that I want to look at. Change the angle, I can raise it up, lower it down, what have you. That can be a handy tool at times. Okay, we'll click that off. Sorry, camera's going all over the place, but then it's not a surprise given the operator. So that's a little, I don't know what the wattage is on it. It's one of these. I like it. It's handy. Kids gave that to me. I have a 60 watt or equivalent to 60 watt fluorescent tube. Just a single one. It's a 4 foot long. It accommodates 2 tubes. I didn't like 2 tubes. I found it too harsh. So I have that sitting directly over my painting. And look at this. Tin foil taped to the side of the fixture, reflecting it onto my painting. That's all I need. Very simple. Not a fancy guy. This boy's not artsy. This boy's a painter. And other than that, I have a torchère light behind the fireplace, which is really, what is it? Yeah, it's a 60 watt equivalent warm light. And then above me and to my left on the ceiling, there's another 4 foot double fixture. One bulb is daylight, the other bulb is warm. So that's really about it. Can't think of anything else for the moment. I'm kind of looking forward to jumping into these rocks. Hope I don't fall and hit my head. Talk to you soon.